Ahoy everybody, I'm Jamal and I'm here to tell you how to survive the winter as a courier. This video will mainly focus on city cycling, but you can adapt most things to your regular training rides too. The main topic is of course clothing. For shoes, the most convenient solution is to buy winter and wet weather specific shoes. Their main setback is that you can only use them in a very specific situation and they will set you back money-wise quite a lot. On the other hand, if you cycle a lot in these conditions, it may be worth to invest in these shoes as they are likely to serve you for a while. But as you can see, or rather can't see, I couldn't show you my winter shoes as they don't exist. If you are tight on budget, you are watching the right video. I won't talk about Gore-Tex and any other fancy stuff, I will focus on budget-friendly options. I use my summer shoes in bad weather too. They can be water and cold proofed nicely if you have good quality overshoes. There are multiple types of them. Some just protects you from cold, some from water and some from both. And of course the level of protection can be different too. Their main advantage is that you can adapt to the weather immediately. Rain stops, get them off. Rain starts, put them on. There's a bigger change in temperature, you know what to do. You can't adapt in the winter cycling shoes to changing conditions. If there is a temperature change of 15 degrees during the day, your feet will boil if you use winter shoes. But what if there is a constant rain and no temperature change and you still don't want to buy shoes that cost you half as much as your bike? Sadly, a regular overshoe won't be enough. As they are open from the bottom, they will slowly but surely let water through, especially if you go through some puddles. But there is a solution. And it costs you virtually no money. Use plastic bags between your shoe and your overshoe. They will stop any water as long as they are intact. Walking in them will wear them out rather quickly, but even as a courier who gets off the bike every 5 or 10 minutes, my feet usually stays dry for 6 to 8 hours. Another alternative is industrial packaging foil. Just buy a roll and it will serve you for a while. And a quick note, you should only use these solutions in cold weather because it cuts the airflow completely around your feet. But if you don't want to cheap out that much or want to save the environment, you can buy waterproof socks. I don't have one yet, so I don't have any personal experience, but I heard good things about them, they get the job done. But keep in mind, just like the winter shoes, they don't come cheap and you can't adapt to the temperature changes with them. Still talking about overshoes, they aren't designed for walking so you can quickly wear them down. The most important part is the front. This area gets the most abuse and it often gets torn apart. Of course, just like almost everything else, it can be solved by duct tape, but it somewhat ruins the whole adapt to your surroundings thing. The second most sensitive part is usually the velcro under the shoe. If they wore off, the sides will flap around and let water through. But it can be easily fixed by some rubber bands. Most cycling shoes usually have a tunnel in the middle, so the rubber band won't touch the ground and it usually remains intact. Oh yeah, and a quick note, most overshoes are designed to fit on a cycling shoe, so they can't reach under the shoes that have a more conventional design like this one, so keep this in mind. So, what about the whole leg? I always use cycling pants. You can get ones that have a fluffy inside like this one, which helps you stay warm. If the weather is really cold, I would suggest some underpants before you get another outer layer. This way everything will stick to your body, reducing drag and internal friction between the layers so you can minimize efficiency loss. If it comes to rain or unbearable cold, you will need an outer layer too. Good quality rainproof trousers won't come cheap, but they worth their price. Try to look for ones that have zips on the end. This way you can get them on and off when needed without removing your shoes. If the bottom hangs loose, water can come in and it can even grab in your chainrings, so use rubber bands to keep them secure. Now let's get to the upper body. For me, layers are everything. They let me adapt to the weather conditions easily, even when it only changes by 2 or 3 degrees. I even have more pockets and it's just more convenient for me at least. So here is how I dress up as it gets colder. The starting point is obviously a single jersey. If it's not enough, I'm going for the double jersey setup. The next step is an undershirt with a single jersey and longer shorts. After that, I repeat the previous process and get on a second jersey, and new gloves too. If your fingers go cold, it's very hard to warm them up again. Usually, my second to last step is a third jersey, which is thicker and has long sleeves. And if it's really cold outside, I may grab a jacket. If it's not enough for you, trust me, more layers always work. Just get more layers. If you want, you can dress up, so very little or no visible skin will left on your body. Hey, Courier's life, Jamal's here! I highly advise you to keep a lightweight raincoat with you. It takes up almost zero space and it will protect you from the wind and will help you keep warm if needed. For me, a coat like that is almost like an insurance. Most of the time it's unnecessary, but when I miscalculate the needed layers and the coat comes in the evening, it's a godsend. On the other hand, this so-called lightweight raincoat will not stop water. It is only suitable for light rains for a short period of time. If there is more to come and it's cold outside, you should invest in a thicker, more heavy-duty raincoat that will actually stop the rain. The downside is that you can't really wear them about 10 or 15 degrees if you work hard because you will cook yourself. And of course they take up a lot more space once you get them off. In the end, I would say it's personal preference. So here are the pros and cons. The pros of lightweight raincoats are, you guessed it, it's light, takes up a smaller space, only takes minutes to dry, and it's cheaper. On the other hand, it won't protect you from a real rain, and they usually have no pockets, so you have to use the ones under it, and they are hard to reach. And there are some other things that can be both good and bad, depending on the situation. It still offers some cold protection, but not very much. And of course it will protect you from the wind chill even when it's wet. I will explain later why this can be a bad thing. Surprise surprise, the heavy duty raincoat is almost the exact opposite. It's heavy, takes up a lot of space, if it gets wet, takes a lot of time to dry, and it's more expensive. But for the price, it can protect you from heavier rains and has multiple easy to reach pockets. And of course it will offer a lot more wind and cold protection, which can be a good and a bad thing as I said before. So, why is this? Keep in mind, the harder your body works, the more sensitive you will get to temperature changes. This mainly comes from the wind chill effect. If you go easy in the pedals, your body will produce less excess heat. Basically, your feel of temperature will be similar when you are riding and when you are off the bike. But if you push really hard, your body will produce exponentially more excess heat that can mostly be compensated by the airflow around your body, therefore you must have less protection around you. Of course, this means if you have to stop for 10 minutes, it can get really uncomfortable, so make sure to have additional layers if you have to stop for longer periods of time. So, long story short, you need to find a balance regarding the cold and wind chill protection, and this only comes with experience. In my experience, if you are heavy on the pedals, you should try to cut the wind protection first and mainly focus on the cold protection. This is why I find the multiple jersey setup the best. They offer little wind protection because they aren't designed for this job, but the air stuck between the layers will help you stay warm when you are stationary and not producing as much heat. Let's talk about gloves. You should always use at least a pair of fingerless gloves, mainly for safety reasons. For full gloves, I would suggest you to have a thin, a regular and a thicker one, preferably with good water resistance. If a single pair of gloves isn't enough, you can combine them into multiple layers. As you can see, it's no easy task, but not impossible at all. You will also lose some mobility, but I think that's a trade you should take over frostbites. As with overshoes, the rain protection is usually very limited. For full water resistance, go with rubber gloves. Pro tip, you won't get a sticky feeling if you use an undergloves and inner layer. Finally, let's talk about the most important body part, your head. You can use a hat or a cap under your helmet if you want to protect your head, or just a bandana if you want to cover your ears. If it gets more chilly, a ski mask is a must. As with everything, you can find different types with different thickness, fluffy insides, different coverage, some with extensions to cover your neck, and so on. Get 2 or 3 to cover all your needs. Also, you will need a pair of glasses too, but that should be a given regardless of the weather. For rain protection, you can use a helmet cover. To be honest, I never use one. I don't know if it's just me, but I don't even notice when my head gets wet. And now that we have literally covered everything and have absolutely zero skin exposed to the elements, I will give you some quick tips. Have at least 2 shoes so you can always wear a dry one next day. If you can't get more clothes around your radiator, use a fan. The high airflow can dry your stuff overnight, even the shoes. Don't wait until the rain gets heavy. Get the protective layers up while you are still dry. Otherwise, what's the point? Same with the temperature change. Don't wait until you freeze or get soaked in sweat. Adapt in time. Take extra care to protect your hands and feet. Those are the first areas your body will cut the blood flow from if your core temperature drops, and it's really hard to reheat them once they go cold. Keep some thermopods with you. They are cheap, light, and they can help rewarm you. Use hydrophobic sprays to waterproof things. Have some energy snacks with you. If you run out of calories, you can't produce heat. So that's all I have for you now. In the next episode we will talk about the actual cycling during winter. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and stay safe out there.